Hi, I'm Kai Chang Tom, and this is Ask Kai, Quick Tips for the Apocalypse, a series of short videos in which I talk to you about all your worries, concerns, questions, curiosities around relationships, sex, dating, living life as a queer or queer-friendly person at the end of the world. So, today's extremely apocalypse relevant question is it a good idea or not to have a threesome with two of my very best friends? And honestly, I am not even being that sarcastic when I say it's extremely apocalypse relevant. And so I just think that this question is evergreen. It's good for the end of the world, it's good for the beginning of the world. Since the dawn of time, people have probably been wondering, should I or should I not have a threesome with two of my best friends? And of course, the answer probably changed over cultural contexts, religious mores, what have you. I am here to give you the answer of, 2022, not to date this video too much, about whether or not it's a good idea to have this particular kind of threesome. I don't know you. I don't know your friends. I don't know exactly what kinds of cultural norms might be embedded in the way you live your lives. So I would say, like if it's a shocking thing in general to have a threesome in your community, in your close circle, and, it might totally blow up the way you think about yourselves, then caution is advised, though not necessarily pulling the brakes altogether. I wonder if this question, though, is kind of about the idea of the friendships getting involved, and would that make friendship awkward or messy or entangled somehow? And what I would say about that is probably yes. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't necessarily have the threesome. I like to think about sex, like deep intimacy in general, but particularly erotic intimacy where touching or nudity is involved, as sort of like mixing together different colors of watercolor paint. I don't know why I said watercolor. I just probably like any kind of paint. Anyway, so one person is one color, another person is another color, and then if you have more than two people, as in this case, then the third person or fourth person, they're extra colors respectively, and you put them together and the colors change. And sex, erotic interactions, deep intimacy are kind of like that. It's a sort of, emotional, alchemical, and also physical process that just changes the quality of the relationship. It changes the colors in the water of the relationship in which you swim. This is like a sort of very mixed metaphor now, but I hope you get it. And once you mix the watercolors, it's not really possible to change the color back or separate them out again. You've changed something. And now maybe the change isn't very drastic. Think about if you're mixing, a light blue and a dark blue, then the change isn't so drastic. If you mix together, light blue, dark blue, and turquoise, still the color change isn't drastic. And I think if we're thinking about threesomes, then we might be thinking about three friends who already kind of have a sexy relationship, and you're really good at communicating with each other, and you're pretty much on the same page, and conflicts can be, relatively easily worked out, historically between the three of you. This would be like mixing three colors of similarly shaded watercolor paint. The color would be different, but not drastically so. And so your adjustment to the relationship and its changes wouldn't be very different, or, would be almost unnoticeable in some cases. But let's imagine that the three colors of paint are like pretty different. Let's say it's like a pink and an orange and a yellow. And pink and orange and yellow are pretty complementary colors. I think I'm wearing some of them now. But the resulting color you're going to get from the melange, as it were, is going to be not pink or yellow or orange. It's going to be like something kind of different that's a mix of all of them, and it will be noticeably and potentially drastically different as well. And again, that's not a bad thing, but it means that the adjustment will be large. And if you are a person, or your friends are people for whom big adjustments in the way you relate to one another are, could be destabilizing or painful, or it's just like a weird time in someone's life and they don't need a lot of big extra changes, then you might want to kind of consider that before going in. Because intimacy, it shifts the way we feel about each other. It means we see each other in a new light. It also means we see genitalia, private parts. We get to hear new sounds coming from the other people. Sometimes emotional stuff comes up in the wake of intimacy, usually, actually, and we get to experience how we feel about receiving attention or giving attention in that very particular way that is erotic interaction. We get to experience potentially jealousy or the release of long held but undisclosed as yet emotions like, I've always had a crush on you, or I've always wanted to date you or marry you, right? And all of these things could come out when we mix the paints together. It's a chemical reaction, and we don't know exactly what we're going to get. And the more varied the elements, the more likely it is that the new color is going to be surprising. And some people really love surprises. Some people really hate them. So the question is, how different are the colors of this paint? How likely is it that you having a threesome is going to cause a shift that will be fairly significant in your relationship? And how interested are you in navigating potential surprises, both pleasant and unpleasant? Because like I said, the new color could be beautiful and gorgeous. You might want to wear it forever. Or it might be like, whoa, I really hate that color and I wish that it hadn't made it. So it's about negotiating your openness to a challenge and surprise, and also communicating that beforehand to the two best friends in question. That was the most extended metaphor I have ever done in my life. Hopefully it worked for you. I think that's the end of this for me. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Kai-Cheng Tom. You've been watching Ask Kai, Quick Tips of the Apocalypse. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Don't watch the news. Watch the news. Do what you need to do to survive.